An array is perfect for storing multiple values that have to be processed sequentially. Using a for loop, we can go through all the elements of an array and perform certain operations on them. For example, let's take another array called myArray equal to # opening bracket and the integers 1, 10, 25, 30 and 42. Now we can use a for loop for I in myArray to print I in order to print every single element of the array to the listener. But we can also perform other operations like, for example, find the sum of all the elements in the array. Let's define a variable, the sum, which is initialized to 0 in the beginning, and then instead of printing the elements of the array, let's take the current value of the sum and add to that value the current value of the array element. In this case, the variable I is assigned the nth element from the array. The first time the for loop is executed, the first element is being assigned to I, the second loop the second element, then the third, the fourth, and so on. Every time the current value of the variable I, which is the nth element of the array, is being added to the variable sum. So if we execute this for loop and take a look at the value stored in the sum, we get 108, which is exactly the sum of the elements stored in the array. Until now, we have been using the for loop to iterate through all elements in a collection. For example, if you have an array like the array is equal to 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20, 30, 42, 123, you could print each element using for I in the array to print I. As you can see, all the elements were printed to the listener. But the for loop is even more powerful. It allows for filtering during the iteration through the collection using the optional where statement. For example, in order to print only the elements that are greater than 5, we could say for I in the array where I is greater than 5, do print I. As you would expect, only the elements that are greater than 5 were printed. All the elements that are less or equal to 5 were skipped. A for loop can not only do something by executing an expression, it can also collect the values it iterates through. Instead of using the do statement, we can use the collect statement, and the result of the execution will be a new array containing only the elements that have passed the where condition test. For example, let's replace the do print with collect. As you can see, the result is a new array value containing those elements that are greater than 5. We can store the result in a user variable in order to use later. For example, filtered array is equal to for I in the array where I is greater than 5, collect I. Now the variable filtered array contains those elements that are greater than 5. We basically took an existing array and created a new one by applying a filter to it. This is a good place to take a closer look at the logical operations in MaxScript and the Boolean value